Welcome to Draw 4, where we draw 4 with the best players in the Flesh and Blood community. Today our guest is Simon Nielsen, who won the Danish Nationals in Flesh and Blood only a few months back, after picking up the game. That said, Simon is also an outstanding Magic the Gathering player. And we will talk about that exactly in this video. Simon, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be back. It's like, things have happened since last time with my Magic results as well. So yeah, this year's been going really well for me in card games in general.
Yeah, it is an exciting time for you because also the Flesh and Blood World Championship is just around the corner. Mm-hmm. And let's talk about Magic the Gathering first, because you ended up in the top 4 of Magic the Gathering World Championship, and you were also crowned Magic the Gathering Player of 2023, right?
Yeah, Player of the Year. Yeah, exactly. It's a title they haven't done for like 5 years, but they decided to like bring it back like for this season. And yeah, I mean, lucky me, because it happened to be the season that I did like the best I've ever done. And yeah, with like with 2 Pro Tour top 8s and a World Championship top 8. Yeah, I am like the most winningest player in 2023, which is kind of wild. Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations to that one. It's amazing
Thank
to
you.
see that you have such an amazing ride this year. The first question I want to ask you is, what made your career explode in Magic the Gathering in 2023?
Yeah, so I think part of the question is that like at some point it's like you keep increasing like your like play skill with the game, your preparation, and so on. And like at some point you're gonna hit like a variant spike, and then all of that preparation is like really gonna show. Like it happens a lot where you do like mid, even though like you are getting better, and then like because these card games like it's especially like Magic is like it's a little bit more variance than Flesh and Blood. It's like that's definitely part of it, but that's not the full story. I mean, it's also not like terribly good advice to be like, oh, you just gotta wait for your time. And I think like what also really happened is that like I got on an incredibly good team. We called the Team Handshake in Magic the Gathering, and we were like pretty well known at this point. Like we also had another one of our players, Nathan Stoyer, who won last year's World Championship, and then top 8'd the next 2 Pro Tours, and won like the second Pro Tour that he top 8'd. He's also been on an incredible run. It just happened to be like the gap of like 2 years, so that's why he's not Player of the Year. And like other people who like top 16, like 5 Pro Tours in a row, and like stuff like this. It's like some really good talent, and then also just like our like work ethics and our motivation is like pretty high. Like probably like some of the best out of like a lot of the competitors. Like we're really trying to take this seriously, and like like organize ourselves as if it's like like you have like this mix of like work and fun, where like it's important that it is still like fun, and like obviously like we do it because we enjoy the game, but we also need to like there's some discipline there. There's like like we try to this time like do some morning meetings and have like get everyone like up to speed, and make sure we like communicate everything we're doing and everything we plan to do, so that like we can actually like make sure to like understand the constructed format and the limited format both. I think like having like these really good teammates helps a lot, because some of my issues in the past have been deck selection, and I think my deck choices this year has been like pretty good. And also like a common misnomer for all of them is that like I've loved all of my decks that I played this year. Like there's like in the Magic Pro Tour there's like a variety of formats that Flesh and Blood doesn't almost have quite yet. We have the Living Legends of course coming up, right? So like maybe that'll be a Pro Tour format in the future. So yeah, it's like through different formats, like being able to like work with my teams to like get some really good deck lists and decks that I absolutely loved was like pretty key, because that also like helped a lot with my mental game and my motivation. Is that like instead of being like, oh, I've just gotta like I need to like win this amount of matches in order to like get what I need out of this tournament, it was more like I'm just gonna like try and play as much as possible with these standard decks because they're great and I love them. And like you have to make the 2 to play that much, and like you probably even have to make top 8 if you want to like play even more matches with your deck. So that was like that's been something that I can like heavily recommend, like trying to strike right balance between like a great deck and also a deck that you're like that like really suits you and that you like. And it's like I guess it's like for a lot of people it's really easy to just like take that as you should always play your pet deck. That's not what I'm saying, because there are other decks you will like, and sometimes some of them are like better than your pet deck. But yeah, that's like kind of what has happened. And then like of course like yeah, like with again like this like this setup with like good teammates, good decks, good mental, and a variant spike, like it all just came together, and like I finally broke through after playing on the Pro Tour for like 8 years.
So teams are a big thing in Flesh and Blood too, but there are differences, of course, to Magic the Gathering, like you just explained. Is there, for a Flesh and Blood team, some teams that you consider, or do you even have a Flesh and Blood team at the moment?
No, actually, for the World Championship, I decided to just work with the other Danes. I am aware that, like, not all of them are, like... It's not going to be the same as, like, when I work with Team Handshake at all. Yeah. Like, you know, people aren't going to be as motivated. There's not, like, as much incentive. And so I guess, like, I could have, like, tried to approach this by, like, joining a team. Like, the Polish guys were, like, contacting me, for instance. And, like, they're definitely, like, some really good teams. And I think... even though I'm still, you know, learning a lot about Flesh and Blood, like I still think I could, like, you know, be a valuable asset to a team because I have, like, you know, these experiences from other card games. But I really just like thought it would be nice to just, like, you know, take this a little bit slower, like a little bit less. Like, if you like, don't think it would be good for me to spend as much time preparing for this World Championship as I have for the other Magic tournaments, like just in terms of like my studies and so on. So I am just working with, like, the other Danes, like trying to just like see if I can, like, you know, make like the Danish community a little bit better, or if they can make me better, because that also happens a lot, right? Like, because they know more than me, and so it's like just been like, you know, I've been like, you know, we've been like trying to like organize a Discord where, like, you know, I do my thing that I usually do for tournament, but I get a bit less of a scale. So like trying to communicate like which matchups I play and, like, you know, which, like, what I figure out, like not just the result, but like which plans are actually working. It's been like something that's really nice about Flesh and Blood is that, like, you have a lot of agency over your strategy more than you necessarily have in Magic. And so you can very easily, like, I've had a lot of matchups where I played, like, you know, I played the matchup, I lost, and okay, that's like, I played the obvious way, that was not the correct one. Now I'm gonna try something else, and you can just play the matchup, like, a couple more times, and have, like, this new strategy, and, like, the results change. And, like, being able to, like, discover these things is pretty nice. And then obviously also, like, try communicating those. So yeah, that's what I'm doing for, like, the Worlds testing here. Maybe in the future I'll join a team. Yeah, we'll see. But it's obviously, like, it's pretty hard for me to do both, like, Pro Magic and also do Flesh and Blood. Like, it's no guarantee that I can, like, attend the Pro Tours in Flesh and Blood and so on. Yeah, we'll see.
All right. So you already dabbled about the topic for the next question.
Oh.
And that is Magic the Gathering versus Flesh and Blood, because that is something that has been around for quite a long time, since the beginning of the game. And I want to hear your opinion on it, because how do you see a lot of people tossing Magic the Gathering and now playing Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, I think there's definitely part of this, I think, has to do with, like, the Magic competitive scene. Is like there's, like, this needle hole that you, like, need to work your way through, because, like, it's not that easy to quantify for the Pro Tour, and I mean, to keep yourself quantified. But, like, once you, like, hit the train, there's, like, a system that, like, once you, like, start qualifying for multiple Pro Tours in a row, it gets easier to quantify for all of them. And then, like, the payoff is, like, really there, because, like, the prize money is better and so on. So, like, there's, like pretty high payoff, and there's a lot of people vying for that spot. You have to get through you have to thread the needle to get there. And of course, with Flesh and Blood, like, there's, like, you know, fewer player base, and it's, like, easier to get to the Pro Tour. And so, like, it's, like, ends up being, like, if people who really just want to play at the highest level of a game, you get that, like, much more accessible in Flesh and Blood. Like, that definitely, like, seems like, you know, like, a reason why, like, people would trail to the other game. I also, like, you know, I think a lot of people do just, like, also simply like Flesh and Blood better than Magic, which is very understandable. Yeah. Because, like, as I said, there's, like, you know, this, like, much more, like, the results of the game is much more related to the way you play them, like, both on a strategic and a tactical level, than it is in Magic. Magic has, like, you know, more, like, variance and high rises. It also has, like, you know, this is not just a bad thing, right? It also means that you can do these, like, incredibly cool things and have these games unfold in, like, wild ways, where, like, Flesh and Blood is still a little bit contained in, like, what can happen in a game. Like, you still have your 4 cards and so on. Like, sometimes you can do these crazy things, like my Finals of Nationals, where I ended up with, like, 7 cards in hand and 2 in the arsenal because I cast 2 free of a kind in the same turn and then passed. Yeah. But it's like, it can definitely still happen, but it's, like, a lot more common in Magic to have, like, you know, these, like, you know, the games that make you feel something. But on the other hand, a lot of Flesh and Blood games are, like, really tight. And, like, I feel like my heart rate rising more when I play Flesh and Blood than when I play Magic. Because, like, the edges are usually, like, thinner. And especially, like, once you get, like, down to the wire. You're playing against Iceland, or like, you know, you might die to arcane damage soon if you're not careful, being like sequenced correctly, and like, oh, you mess up with like, you know, leaving one resource on the table, you just like die, and oh, I kind of hope you don't have it, like that sort of thing. Which again, also like you get from Magic, but I feel like I get a little bit more from Flesh and Blood. It's very interesting because these two games are like so different in design, and like when my Magic friends ask about like what Flesh and Blood is like, I usually tell them that like, okay, there are no permanents, which not quite true, right? But like simplified, there are no permanents. You draw up to 4 cards at the end of every turn, and then all cards are split card, Lightning Bolt, Healing Solve, and Dark Ritual, which is basically what it is, right? And so like that's basically like those cards are like, you know, a card that deals damage, a card that like prevents damage, and a card that gains mana or resources. And so that's like exactly what Flesh and Blood is, right? Of course, with like varying numbers. When I might tell that people are like, okay, that sounds like very boring. It's like, yeah, but you know, like it's obviously there's a lot more to this. And yeah, like that just like sounds like, because like if you're like, you were to explain like Hearthstone to a Magic player, it would be fairly easy. You'd be like, yeah, but you get a mana every turn, and then like, you know, you can attack both the creatures or the face directly, and like that's, and then damage stays, and that's about it. Like there's not that much to it, like coming from Magic, but Flesh and Blood just works on a completely different axis than what other card games do. Yeah, it's been very interesting to discover in that regard.
All right, so I want you to dabble into one of the things that come up a lot when comparing Flesh and Blood to Magic the Gathering. And that is, I hear people say they feel like betrayed or tossed by Magic the Gathering, or Wizards of the Coast rather. How do you see those people talking about it when coming to Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, I think there's definitely some legitimacy to it. There was a time, especially when Magic organized play was really bad. And that was like around the time where like Flesh and Blood came out, and they were like just like took the system that Magic used to have, and like, you know, with the Pro Tours and the qualifiers and like, you know, and the callings and so on, which were called Grand Prix in Magic. And you and yeah, like so like at this time, that's also like, you know, the strategy from that, you know, LSS did was like pretty smart here, and it seemed to work, where like a lot of people got, you know, interested in the other game where they, you know, felt more respected. I think Magic's organized play has turned around. Obviously, like there was a rough period throughout COVID as well when they were like trying to turn it around, but it was hard to do it fully because the structure was just different. But I think they did like a pretty good system with what they had. They were like disabling their like Magic Pro League, which was like, you know, to try their attempt at doing esports and have like, you know, a few players be like, have an actual salary. And now they went to like, okay, we're not going to support pro play, which is also something that made people quit. It's like, I mean, what are we, you know, striving for then? But I mean, I think they are very much supporting pro play, just not directly, but like the prize pools are like pretty good, and they have like, it's like functional to do it. You have to obviously do other stuff like article writing, sponsorships, coaching, stuff like this to support it. But you can, I think, I mean, you know, I'm doing this for a living, right? Like, obviously I'm like, you know, at this point, like at a, you know, top percentage of player where like, you know, I guess it would be expected, but you can definitely like, I think a lot of people would be able to make it work in Magic, not like a ton, but definitely like, you know, that once you get to the point where you like qualify for another Pro Tour, like you can go pro. And it's like a little bit, it's like a lot harder on Flesh and Blood to do that because, I mean, the price support is just not there. This game. So you can do the thing where you like, you know, travel to all the battle hardened and the callings, and like you can maybe like make it work. But yeah, it's like kind of difficult in this game too. But so I would say that like things are looking better in Magic now. They went back to like the actual like having Pro Tours back. I believe and hope that they are going to do Grand Prix again. They started to do them a little bit. They're just always connected to a Pro Tour. So like the same way that Flesh and Blood has like a calling on a Pro Tour. Yeah, I think things are looking up in Magic, but it also makes sense that like LSS seems very much more focused on like player focused and not just like whereas in Magic there's a lot more focus on the casual players. Flesh and Blood is only just like dabbling into that area with like the round the table and releases like that, right? Where also, I mean, I think Flesh and Blood is just a way worse casual game because of the things I explained before with like the cool things that happen in Magic. Like those are, So there's like, I think it is like probably a better competitive game, but the issue with the price support isn't quite there.
Yeah. Maybe we see that down the line when
hopefully.
a few years the game progresses. I hope so. I think myself coming from Yu-Gi-Oh, we don't even have price support there, so that's a step up. But yeah, for sure, I agree with you on the casual side. I really hope with Round the Table and upcoming products in the next year that casual play can exceed on the level it is at the moment. But we already talked about a little bit on the next topic, so I will just reveal it and start the next question.
I don't know, I keep just getting to your topics without thinking about it.
You talked a little bit about it already, that playing multiple TCGs at Worlds level, so at the highest level, is really exhausting and is really challenging. So how do you manage to go to the World Championship in Magic the Gathering, get to the semifinals, also being cured the Player of the Year, and then managing to get the national champion in Denmark, and now in the next month competing at the World Championship in Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, so I would say part of it is that once you get at a certain level in one game, it gets easier to transfer to another game. I explained how Magic and Flesh and Blood are so different, but I've been quite surprised with how easy it has been for me to transfer a lot of things still. In terms of how you make in-game decisions, fairly quickly break down the math. Okay, this is the optimal play, but what am I playing around? Is it worth it to give up a point to gain some advantage in some other area? And these sort of ways of thinking, my brain is already very well trained at doing that. And there's the other thing with with just testing matchups, and as I said, okay, I need to play the matchup. I played once and I lose because I played bad, and then I start to figure out what the actual strategy is, and I think I'm pretty good at noticing these things faster and being willing to try out the strategies with so both in terms of preparation and deck tuning and also the in-game thing. There's a lot of things I get to transfer. Another thing that's been really important for this to even work is that the timing has been good. The Nationals was at a time where it was downtime with Magic, because a lot of the Pro Tours are try to set releases. So for the World Championship, for instance, at the release of the newest set, Wilds of Eldraine, we had 2 weeks from the release of the set until we had to submit our deck lists. Mm-hmm. And of course, in that time, I cannot think about Flesh and Blood at all.
Sure.
Even the week prior, when the cards are spoiled and we maybe play on some simulators and just talk about the cards and brew. I could also not do Flesh and Blood there, and I didn't. But the Nationals was the week before that, so it's actually perfect because obviously the month, the whole month of August, we couldn't prepare for the World Championship because that's a perfect time to prepare for Flesh and Blood. And now the World Championship is over at the end of September, and that means I have the entirety of October and half of November to figure out what Katsu does. And which I have now, I think maybe figured out what Katsu does. I still haven't played against them in Constructed, but will, one day. But yeah, so the timing has been really important to make it work too. But then also, I will say, it's in general, if you're thinking about trying out another game, if you're very successful in one game, it's easy. You might have also noticed a little bit from it was harder to start out in Yu-Gi-Oh! Compared to moving from Yu-Gi-Oh! To Flesh and Blood, even though again the games are very different.
So you basically just have a time slot in your calendar which says prepare to be the world champion for Magic, and then afterwards it changes up for Flesh and Blood.
Exactly, but it's also a little bit different because I took off a lot of weeks from school for during the preparation for Worlds, especially since 2 weeks before the tournament, or 1.5 weeks before the tournament, we flew out to Vegas and was in a testing house, and so there I obviously can't do any studying. And so I can't keep doing that for Flesh and Blood as well. And it's also the payout isn't quite there for me to do it anyway. So it's different, right? Now it's more okay, I have a few hours every night.
Okay. So I saw also that other Magic the Gathering pros are trying out Flesh and Blood. I mean, we already had huge Magic the Gathering pros playing in Flesh and Blood already, but I think here talking about playing multiple TCGs at Worlds level, I want to hear from you. Do you think that also other of your colleague pro Magic the Gathering players will try out Flesh and Blood in the future and trying to exceed to the top level?
I think, at least talking to my teammates, I don't think any of them are really interested in doing it. They think that what I do is borderline crazy. I mean, it's they talk about how it's really cool that I can just show up and do this thing. But again, it does, I could probably be a better Magic player if I just didn't do Flesh and Blood throughout this year. Probably, but maybe there's a mental game thing where it's good to have balance and do other things. So yeah, it's hard to say, but
yeah,
I would definitely be a better student if I didn't try and do both. So does that. But I definitely think like, like, I got introduced to the game from like one of my like good MTG friends who like went into Flesh and Blood, and so I'm hoping that like I can I'm hoping that I can do the same or that I'll probably introduce someone at some point to the game, maybe. But yeah, it's hard to see because like when you're doing really well in Magic, it's like hard to like feel the incentive to do anything else because like the payoffs are just so high and you really want to stay at the top level, right? And so like, but the people who are like maybe easier to convince are like people who aren't doing as well right now in Magic and are like, feeling like that dip in like player support and whatnot, or like struggling to like break through to the Pro Tour because again, like the like needle is really tight. Like for these people, it's much easier to convince them, hey, like try this thing. But I will say the thing that like convinced me to try it was that my friend Julian from Switzerland, who told me that he thought it was like really interesting to just try something where like you're just in deep waters, you don't know what's happening. And like trying to like just piece things together like from that end. Because like if I go to like a pre-release now in Magic, or like I went to like an regionals qualifier, which is like similar to a Pro Quest, I guess, in terms of level in Magic, and it's just like it feels like I don't belong there anymore. Like it's like hard because like it's a weird balance, and people are like, it feels a little bit weird that I'm there because like what happens if I win? I mean, the invite passes down, but like anyone I beat on the way there, like it's awkward because I already have the invites I need, and like, but I'm really excited to go to Pro Quest in Flesh and Blood. Like I have a couple, like I have 3 lined up, and some of them are like driving like pretty far for, because like that's just it's like a complete like different restart, and I'm like also like not only am I like a better fit there because I'm not qualified for anything, I'm also like I have a lot to learn. Like I also do in Magic. Magic is really hard too, but like here it's like like there's a bunch of people in the room who are just better than me or like know more stuff about like the matchup I'm playing and such. So I'm really challenged to like try and figure out what's going on. And so the cool thing is like like this whole experience of like just like throwing myself into something, like just turning up to like learn how to play the game for my friend. Like we play like 3 matches like with different CC decks, and then I just turned up at my game store where they had like a sealed event. I was like, okay, yeah, let's do this. I don't know how anything works, but I'm gonna like try. and yeah, it's like it's been like from that point, then like realizing nationals is there and like trying for that, and it's like that's been really cool because it's like it like takes me back to like to the times when like I was trying to figure out like Magic without having all these like incredible resources of having a great team and having like years and years of experience. And it's like it's a cool thing to do as well. It's like something different.
Great. Okay, so if any of the viewers have more deeper questions that you want Simon to dive into on playing multiple TCGs at Worlds level, drop them down in the comments. And now we draw our last topic for today.
Right. Maybe one I didn't touch on?
Yes.
Ooh, I didn't.
So digital clients are kind of controversial at the moment in Flesh and Blood because, the online draft tool it's not there anymore, let's say it like that. And we already talked about testing for major events, which is a huge thing for every pro player and also for every casual player who wants to dive into pro play. So testing for a card game has really required a lot of things. And one of them is resources, right? You need to dive into the card pool, you need to dive into strategies, getting to know the meta and stuff like that. And a huge part of that are digital clients in any major TCG, let's say Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering. But in Flesh and Blood, we don't have a native digital client. Do you think the game can survive without an online draft tool or any official digital clients in the future?
I think survive is like the game will survive. Like it's not. It feels like that's like probably not something that will like kill a game. And I think it probably is something that might help, because I think what LSS is doing with that makes a lot of sense, especially like when you have a set like Bright Lights, which has like not that many chase cards, but you still want people to buy it. Because like if we don't buy the product, like the game will die. That's like the thing, right? And like forcing people to like try and get together and draft in real life means more product gets sold. And maybe it doesn't impact that much, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. But on the other hand, there's the argument that like you just want the game to be played as much and like as possible, and that's like then the product will be sold, then the tournament tickets will be sold just because people play it more. Yeah, I'm not sure. The fact that like it all had to happen through a Discord and like the draft client was not like you still couldn't like just go in and like just like draft against anyone. Like a lot of like basically everyone who like used draft FAB was like enfranchised, and so it just can't be like that many players that impact. Because there's a lot of the like less enfranchised players would like also like want to like pursue the game and don't know about like the Runaways Discord and so on. It's like, I mean, these people like were probably never gonna use it anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I think it definitely. I think it's like it's kind of like a neat gimmick that Flesh and Blood has done with like, okay, we're not gonna have an online client because we are playing in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah.
And I think the game would be probably better if it did have an online client. Like it's just nice to play like more tournaments. Like people would get better at the game as well if there was like, you know, like tournaments every week, if there was a ladder, like whatnot. Because like the issue with playing on Talishore is that you're not matching on level, you're just matching against a random opponent, and they might not be playing for the same incentives. Whereas like, you know, compared to like a high level ladder match or like something like some event you had to pay an entry fee into, that gives like a different incentive. And you might also have like online play spaces usually also have like more casual friendly or like competitive casual friendly like things where you can also just like play your deck against like someone else who like wants to try something cool or whatever it might be. And so the issue is that like I don't intend to play any games in Talishar against random people. I will and have used it like to play against teammates, and that I will continue to do. I think that's like really valuable that you can like do like long distance testing. You can also do like tabletop simulator for that. Like, you know, the Talishar is not like the only way to do it. But yeah, I think it's like it can easily be kind of harmful to just play on Talishar because you can win a lot and maybe not get better because the opposition wasn't what you expected. So yeah, like I think it would probably be better for the game. I don't think it's like it would be better for the game to have an online client, but I think it can also like deal with what they have right now. I don't think the closing of draft FAB is like doesn't seem like that detrimental to like the growth of the game. But yeah, I mean obviously, yeah, for the players any tool would be better, and so like this is probably. But then on the other hand, like there's something to be said for like, oh wait, something that's really good though about not having an online client. I think this is really, really good. Is that the armories in Flesh and Blood are like way better than they are in Magic.
Ooh.
Yeah, because like if we want to like get better, we have to like show up at the local game store. So that means the good players also have to show up at armories. That's at least what's happening in Copenhagen. You have like the best players in Copenhagen are going there every week, and the new players are also there. And so the new players get to learn from the good players because like we also want to like we're all like very aware that like the scene is small and we want to like make sure it like grows and like stays alive. And so one way to do that is like to make sure we like teach people. And that's how I, you know, was like I felt very welcome when I went to play armories because like I played against like, you know, former national champion who would just be like, oh hey, have you played the game before? I'll show you how it works. Like, you know, this like very friendly atmosphere. So it feels like both competitive and casual friendly. So it's like hits at quite of a nice spot. And I think this is harder to get if everything is online because like I have for Magic right now, there's no desire for me to go to a draft armory. FNM is what it's called in Magic, Friday Night Magic. I have no desire to go to that because if I wanted to draft, I could just like do it online and it would be faster and like, you know, probably like the same level. It's like, you know, less of a hassle. I mean, sometimes I do go to like because like it's obviously fun to hang out with people, but not having the option for a good online client does like, you know, mean that you just get together with people more and is healthier as well. And like it's, yeah, I think that's like one of the advantages of it. And I think maybe, I don't know, maybe it's good for LSS to not have an online client in that regard because you do foster really good in-store environments.
So I have to say that there is now like an intro play digital version on the FAB TCG side. I'm not sure if you have seen that one with the era.
I have not seen that. Oh, interesting. Okay, that's cool though. I think that's great. If there's like, I guess like the IRA decks,
yeah,
probably. Yeah, yes. That's the only thing. And then you play against an AI maybe.
So there's like a walkthrough that you have like, it's like set what you need to do, but you have to do it yourself. So you kind of understand what to do. I will send it to you afterwards so you can check that one out. But I think that is an amazing step where it's like, they say they don't want to have a digital version of the game. So people play it in Flesh and Blood. That's amazing, I think. But then also providing digital assets so people can start to learn how to play the game, even though they don't have a digital client. So I'm really stoked to see what the future brings on that side. But for digital clients, do you want to add in anything here?
No, I don't think there's, like I said, a lot of what I said needed to be said. I think one thing to add though is that like once, like in like 5 years time, maybe Flesh and Blood has like more formats, and then the like desire for digital play goes up because it's harder to like at least like the way we do armories right now, we like change the format not each week, but like we, you know, it's like the format changes, but we only have 1 weekday to play. And so let's say like, you know, Living Legend gets like a big format. I'm interested in that, and I only play that. But then like I can't go to Armory every week because like they don't have Living Legend every week. It's like having an online client to like be able to just like pursue the game like the way you want is like a little bit better. But when there's only, I mean, I guess there's also Blitz now, of course, or like has always been. It's like there's already like a couple different formats, and then like, you had the Living Legend on top of that, you had the draft. So like I guess the like game already has a little bit of this like problem. Where like for instance, if you really like Blitz and you like playing Copenhagen, you're just like not gonna be able to play Blitz for like a while because we're doing draft and CC for the next like month or so. And yeah, that's like a bit unfortunate. But if there was an online client, you would be easy to play it. But yeah, I mean maybe Talishot does the job totally fine for that. I could imagine it does.
So I want to ask you, we drew 4 together here. If there would be an Arsenal, what would you reveal from your arsenal for the viewers here at the end?
Oh, that's funny. What would I reveal? Okay, probably like, you know, some Endless Arrow or something. That's what I'm used to revealing. But I will, yeah, it's like a last question in like the Flesh and Blood versus Magic thing. What can I say? I think like both like the incentive, I've always talked about like the incentive to like try something new. I definitely would encourage like Flesh and Blood players to also try other games. I think card games are just incredibly fun. And the other thing is like just making sure you like try and work with people to figure these things out. Like I really like, you know, playing on Talisher, I think is like just, if you can avoid it, like try and like just find some people, print out some proxy decks. That's what I've been doing now. And like try and get together and like play some matchups and figure these things out and like focus on not just like something that's very common and will be extremely common in Flesh and Blood is you go, it also happens in Magic, but like you go, okay, here's my result, but I could have won these 2 losses if I had played better. And it's like, yeah. I mean, but you're not going to play perfect at the tournament either, so like that's not, you know, that's not an argument for anything. If it's supposed to be like a tournament preparation you're doing, like you're also going to make mistakes there. You're going to miss a tunic trigger, you're going to like, you know, make the wrong block, and maybe you lose the game because of that. That happens a lot in Flesh and Blood, because like almost every game it feels like there's something you could have done to turn it around. But it's important to like not focus on that, but do focus on like, I think I'm not supposed to take the blocking role here. I'm supposed to like, you know, take more damage and raise, or I'm supposed to like play more blocking, or like do this thing that like, you know, anything strategic that you notice that you did wrong. I think it's very important, like helpful, because like it's like there's actually a lot of different ways to play matchups because all the cards are so flexible, and you're always presented with like you're like never stuck in like any line. And you can also like, it's easier to pivot strategy as well, which is like important to identify like a certain point when like something happens in the game that makes both players change the way they play. And it's important to like be able to identify like what that is. So yeah, if you like want to like improve and get better at like this game and like figuring out how to play certain matchups, like that's what I would try and have in mind.
All right. Thank you so much for that one. And thank you so much for taking the time today to dive into Draw 4 and tell us your secrets for the World Championship.
Yeah, all of my secrets. Yeah, there you go.
All right, so we will see us in the next month at the World Championship in Barcelona.
Oh, yeah,
I'm so stoked for that one.
Yeah, cool. It's going to be great. I'm looking forward to it. Barcelona, great city.
Yes. Cool. And to all the viewers, thank you so much for tuning in today's Draw 4 episode. If you have a question for Simon or want to leave a comment, leave it down below and like the video if you found it helpful.